Hello, Internet, and welcome to my review for Attack on Titan episode 40. When we last left off, Levi was attacked by Kenny, and they had a battle all through the streets of Trost. Meanwhile, Eren and Historia were captured by Kenny's men. Armin killed one of them and had a bit of an emotional crisis. And then Hanji and Levi, working with the captured merchants who had tried to kidnap Eren back in episode 38, captured two of the MPs, and from torturing them, got information on that Historia is the true heir to the throne, and that the Race family is the legitimate royal family. That's kind of where we left off last week. So, going into this episode, the first thing we see is an extended flashback of just how shitty a childhood Historia had. Like, her mom never even, looked at her. Like, she didn't even realize that mothers were supposed to care about their children until she, read it in a book. Like, Jesus Christ, that's just horrible. It's like, she goes to, hug her mom to see what would happen, and then the mom, shoves her away, and Historia's reaction is to be happy about it, because it's the only human connection she's, ever had. And it is heartbreaking. And Historia's mom is the worst. And then Historia's mom just fucking leaves. Never sees her again until, the very end of her life. So her mom is awful, and someone needs to protect baby Historia. But no one does, because right after the walls break down, or right after, Eren, or Bertolt and Reiner, have their attack on Walmaria, who should show up but Rod? Rod and Historia's mom to take Historia away. And this is something I'm not entirely positive of, because it seems like, Kenny and all of his men are working with Rod, that's why they're there. But some of their conversation kind of implies that, they aren't, because Kenny asks Rod if Historia's mother and Historia are with him, which, if he's working with Rod, he should know about that, I feel. But I don't know. It is interesting that Kenny is kind of gives a bit more timeline, that Kenny's already, stopped serial murdering and is now working with at least a noble family in an attempt to, working with the Race family. Don't know where I was going with that. And is not just, on the streets with Levi 5 years ago. I'm not quite familiar enough with Levi's timeline to know when that would have stopped and when Levi joined the Scouts. Those are all things that, I feel like there are some OVAs about that, but I have not seen really any of the Titan OVAs, so I'm not entirely sure what I'm supposed to do with that. But yeah, we do get confirmation that Kenny has been, at least working with nobles for the past 5 years. And then so, right as, Kenny is about to kill Historia, Rod has this idea to spare Historia by, having her become Crystal Lens and live in anonymity, as she is when we first meet her in the beginning of the series. And I'm kind of curious if that's supposed to, signal that he's not as awful as he appears. If so, it doesn't really work, because he still comes across as just, on the whim, he decides to spare her rather than just, wanton murder. Or, a reverse Luke in The Last Jedi, where, instead of, for a brief moment considering killing someone, he, for a brief moment, decides to save someone. Not exactly makes him a hero. But, I'm not entirely sure where exactly Rod's character arc is going to be going from here, if he's, especially because we figure out by the end of the episode that Erwin's goal is to, get King Fritz to resign because Historia is the rightful heir, when really, wouldn't Rod be the rightful heir, because he's, her parent, and therefore earlier in line to the throne than Historia? I don't know. And maybe Rod is going to go, full on evil dude, and they're going to have to kill him, or maybe he'll realize Historia is a better heir, or a better royal. I don't know. I don't know where we're going with Rod, and that's really the bulk of his appearance this episode in that flashback. And then he, takes Eren and Historia, or just Historia, to, I think he calls it the place where it all began, I think is his exact words. I'm not exactly sure what that's supposed to mean, but it can't be good. Maybe where, I don't know, I have no idea where the walls began, or the center of the walls, or something. I don't know. But then, we cut back to, we stick the rest of the episode with the scouts. And we see, Hanji and, is it Moblit who's with her, or someone's with her? And they throw the MP Sanes into jail, where Sanes finds out that he was deceived by the scouts into giving up who the real royal family is. And the way Hanji treats the MPs here, so I had never really thought that Hanji cared all that much about Nick. She literally dangles him off the wall in his first appearance. And I always figured that a bit of an adversarial relationship, that the stuff she said to the MPs about being friends with Nick was just a lie to alleviate suspicion, as to why she was there. But the way she treats the MPs, there's a line about, after the MPs call her a demon, she's like, yeah, and I bet Nick said the same thing about you, and now you're going to spend the rest of your life shitting in this tiny cell, is her exact line. And it almost seems like she actually, liked Nick, they were, she thought him as a friend, which I highly doubt Nick felt the same way. But that's an interesting little tidbit I didn't really figure about Hanji. So then we finally get the, what exactly the conversation was that Aaron had remembered in the first episode of this season, and it's kind of a letdown. It was built up, they spent 2 episodes, not telling us what it was. And then it's the scene where Bertold asks Ymir about, the person she ate outside the walls. That was, okay, I guess. I was expecting this, big reveal, I guess, and we didn't really get that. It was just kind of minor. It felt kind of bad to draw that out when it was just so pointless. And then somehow from that, Hanji figures out that, if a Titan shifter eats a Titan, they get the Titan's powers. And I'm not entirely sure how she figures that out, how she figured out that, because it seems like it would require Hanji to know that Ymir was not a shifter before she ate whatever Reiner and Bertold's friend's name is. I forget if we've been told what it is. And I don't think Hanji would know that much, unless she knows more than she's letting on to. Unless she knows all about Ymir's backstory from Season 2, which she shouldn't. Only Ymir should know about that. Because she did not tell anyone last season, as I recall. So that was kind of a weird thing, but, the fact that that's how it works, I guess it makes sense, given what we've seen, given that Ymir was kind of, a brainless Titan, I think the iCatch called it a pure Titan, and then she ate, the friend, and, she then became, a shifter. I guess that makes sense. It's still alright. And it does kind of give us, as to why Aaron would be getting eaten if either the Race family or King Fritz have, a Titan in their possession. Being able to eat Aaron would give them the power to control the Titans, but I imagine the Titans in the walls to do something. There's a whole lot of mystery going on what exactly they want Aaron for. I know it's not just to, get free of the walls and reclaim the Earth. But I'm not entirely sure what they're after still. I hope that gets expanded more as the arc continues. But from there, we cut to Erwin for really most of the rest of the episode. And he first has a conversation with Pixis, where, they confirm that they are going to be rebelling against the government, overthrowing the king in order to retake Walmaria. We haven't exactly found out why exactly, Erwin thinks that Fritz won't want to take Walmaria, other than, he's cracking down against the scouts. But, I don't really see what Fritz has to gain by keeping humanity within the walls. Or, at the very least, not taking Walmaria back. I'm not entirely sure where exactly Fritz plays into what exactly his goals are, and I feel like that kind of needs to be explained soon, because there's a whole lot of whys going on. But anyway, what I really wanted to bring up, though, is that Pixis mentioned that, he always knew that at some point, keeping humanity in these tight spaces would cause them to lash out, and that Pixis would have to turn his gun against the king. And that's interesting, because I don't think Pixis knew about, the truth about the royal government, the fact that they seemed to be keeping humanity inside the walls for some reason. But he always figured that he would, like, rise up against the king, too. I'm not entirely sure, like, why he thought that, you know? Maybe there's just something about him that he was always... I mean, we do see him in the scene with, way back in Season 1, that he kind of, like, treats the nobles with contempt. You know, how he always goes easy on that one noble because he doesn't want to, like, embarrass him, but really it's just kind of, like, a pity kind of thing. And Pixis doesn't really care too much about the nobles. So I guess that kind of, you know, fits into what we saw of him way back in Season 1. But yeah. So Erwin's plan has a lot of problems. I need to bring this up. Because his whole goal is to bring Historia to the king, say she's the rightful heir, and that's his plan. That's the entire Erwin plan, at least from what I can tell out of this episode. Because it's just like, is Fritz, who's desperately clinging on to power at this point, does Erwin really believe Fritz is just gonna let Historia have the throne? Is that his theory? That makes zero sense. What? That's so bonkers that he thinks that would work. So I don't really know. Maybe Erwin has, like, a plan that he's not even telling Pixis. Because Erwin's supposed to be a pretty good strategist, right? But this does not really seem like that. But then, the MPs are like, yeah, we're arresting Erwin because they are framing him for the death of Demo Reeves last week. And right before he goes, he gives Hanji a promotion to be the new commander of the Scouts because he's going to be in jail and maybe executed before they can rescue him. So now Hanji is the promotion of the Scouts, as the leader of the Scouts, which lasts for all of 5 minutes because the MPs ban the Scouts and declare them all outlaws as soon as Erwin shows up. Because according to the MPs, Erwin and the Scouts arranged for the death of Reeves, and therefore they are harboring Eren to the detriment of the rest of humanity, and as a result they must be, you know, eliminated under some humanity charter or something, which has never been brought up, but whatever. And a bunch of the Scouts are arrested, and right before Erwin joins them, he talks to Reeves' wife, which is an interesting choice, given that she kind of hates him at the moment. But he, you know, goes on this whole thing about how, you know, he might have held up the evacuation of Trost way back in Season 1, but after that, he spent the rest of his life before being killed by Kenny, like, trying to rebuild Trost. And I think that's a really smart move on Erwin's part, because at least in Trost, as we see later on, Stohess is still full on the Scouts are all evil. With Erwin giving this big speech to everyone, it kind of sprinkles doubt onto the official report that Erwin is just, like, evil and the Scouts are trying to destroy humanity for their own gain. I can definitely see, if this arc goes on for a long time, Trost kind of becoming the home base of a rebellion against Fritz. I know how to talk. So that's a really smart strategic move on Erwin's part before he goes away. And then we have one of the more shocking points, even more than eating a Titan gives you their power. Erwin goes... We have a flashback of Erwin and Pixis' conversation as Erwin gives Pixis his whole life story, including, you know, his father was a history teacher, and he told Erwin that, like, the stuff in the government history books didn't quite add up, and then Erwin went around telling everyone about that, and then they killed the dad, which is all, you know, good stuff. Not a whole lot to say about it. It's you know, it gives Erwin a bit more of a characterization that he's never really had before, besides win for humanity win. But there's one bit in particular. So Erwin reveals that his father's theory, and now his own theory, is that when humanity first came to the walls, the government, like, altered their memories so that they would, like, I don't know, not figure out that there was life beyond the walls or something, or figure out whatever the big secret is beyond the walls. And that's weird. All of a sudden, the government can alter memories. What? How was this never brought up before? Okay. All of a sudden, the government... I can accept, you know, they've built into the idea of Titans and Titan shifters and all these Titan powers, slowly over the course of the past 40 episodes. But then Erwin drops memory altering. What? I don't know what? It's so weird. I mean, okay, I guess we're going with that now. That's a thing, I guess. It's just wild. That's just a wild plot point. But yeah. Then last part of the episode, our heroes are hiding out, making their way towards the Race estate, where they hope to find Historia and Rod and Aaron, and some mysterious soldiers are heading right for them. They seem to be built up as MPs. I could totally see them being like Hanji and Moblet, though, giving some support, just giving us a cliffhanger, because we don't see what happens with that, because right then, that's where the episode cuts off. So we'll have to wait until Sunday to find out who those soldiers were, if they are MPs, if they're, Hanji and Moblet, or what exactly is going on there. But all in all, this is, another fun episode. There wasn't too much, forward motion. There was, like, Erwin getting arrested and the scouts being on the run. But there wasn't really any action. We got a good bit of backstory with Historia and with Erwin, who's, I feel, is most important. Historia's we can kind of figure out most of it. She had a shitty life. Erwin, So I did mention, I think, in my last review, or if I didn't, I meant to, that when Sanus, gives that whole speech last week about how he did all these awful things for the glory of Fritz, and he mentions, like, killing a teacher or something, and the teacher looked like I mentioned the man with Erwin in the opening, who in this episode we learned is his father. So I think that's a neat connection, that Sanus seems to be the guy who killed Erwin's father, even if he seems kind of young to be the one to do that. Because, Erwin's father was killed when he was, like, a young man, or when he was a young boy, and Sanus is not that old. I think he's still younger than, like, Erwin, but he's not. I think he's younger than Erwin is the problem. Maybe he's a little older than Erwin, but not by much. Erwin, how old is Erwin, actually? He feels like he's, like 40 or something, but I feel like that's a little bit too old for Erwin. Maybe just the way he dresses. But anyway, we get some backstory for, Krista and Erwin. Get some genuinely ridiculous reveals. I still cannot get over the fact that apparently the government can alter memories in this series. What the fuck? But I'm still really excited to see where we go from here. We have soldiers heading towards our heroes as they're trying to head towards Aaron, Historia, and Rod. The government's making their move against the scouts. The scouts are now making their move against the government. We're all heading into this big war. That I don't know how long it will last. Manga readers, don't spoil it because this is anime only. I've only seen the anime and never read the manga. So I don't want to know what happens next. But yeah, this is really all I have for this episode. It was a lot of fun. Some weird shit going on. Also, Hanji figuring everything out from that one conversation kind of struck me as fake, but whatever. But anyway, I hope you all enjoyed the video and the episode. If you did, you can feel free to drop me a like, subscribe, or whatever the fuck you want. I don't really care. And as always, people, keep kicking ass, and I'll see you in the future. Bye!